Well, good evening. You're very welcome to TTML Division 4, round number 10, here for the Mexico Grand Prix, first race of 2021. And let's hoping it is a good one. We are back, and joining me tonight is Ivor Bryn Mike. Hello, sir.
Hello. I taking a break from Division 2 and I thought I'd come and help you out for tonight.
Is appreciated. It's yeah, better to have someone than to be all alone. So I am
Yeah, and
grateful you could
it's a
join me.
great track. It
It is
is
a
a
good
great track
track.
at the end.
It is a good track. We're going to get into that in due course. But for now, just hopping into qualifying. I must be honest because I partake in the sprint league myself, so it's kind of weird going into a session and like it's full qualifying and not one shot. Cheap plug for TTML Sprint League on a Wednesday at 8 o'clock. But
Yeah, let's go check it out. D Graham race.
not just me, but please, I think I could do this. Anyways, it is a dry session here to begin. You don't get too many wet sessions around Mexico, but it does happen. And I've been in a few sessions where it has happened, but it's been a while. And because it's been a while, I certainly could do with some jogging of the memory on the current standings. So, Mike, why don't you take us through the drivers and the constructors as they head into this round number 10?
Okay, so I believe it is Charlie, the man who leads the drivers' championship on 141 points. I don't think he's in.
I think you might be behind on the standings if you.
Yeah, I'm behind. I'm behind. They said Division 1. Let's call it season 1, round 10. That's what I was looking at then. Alright, so Faxland is leading the driver standings on 197 points. Then we got Storm in second on 137 points, so a 60-point gap between them. It could be the deciding race in this championship for Faxland tonight. If he gets a decent enough result, it's all on him. As we got Scorbo in third on 112 points, the only three drivers to exceed the 100-point barrier right now. Then we got Florian on 90 points, 83 points for Conti, sixth is Tiger on 79 points, 78 points for Ham. Then we got Neymar Mig on 77 points, Sygate on 74 points, and Likaya on 68. So that's the top 10 in the driver standings. And in the constructors, we have Mercedes on 227 points, Haas right behind them on 224, Renault on 190, Williams on 151, Alfa Romeo on 119, 10 points ahead of Alpha Tauri on 109, and we got Ferrari on 105, 95 points for McLaren, 59 for Red Bull, and 14 points for the Racing Point.
All right, so there's your catch up, and as you say, Faxland can seal the deal tonight. Just two races left after this one, of course, and he's got a lead of 60 points. So just has to finish ahead of Storm, and could even finish behind by quite a number of places, and he can wrap up the title tonight. First man on the lineup is Neymar Mig, who has, I'm not joking, as he comes across, he's validated the lap, as he comes across, he was literally talking to me before Christmas about having a helmet for Mexico. And Saika, his teammate, says the fastest lap for 15.2. And then he sent a message again earlier today reminding, don't forget to have a look at the helmet now. And we've been on board for a bit, and is in the colour of the Mexican flag. And that's a strong helmet template, so we talk about helmets quite a bit here, myself and Joe. So it is a strong approval on the helmet for Neymar Mig. His teammate was provisional pole, a 15.2, has been beaten by Khan, a 14.7, and Conti still creeping into the front row there. His teammates actually gone ahead of him quickly as well, so a lot of change happening quickly. What would you expect pole position to be tonight, Mike? What kind of time do you think we could be looking towards?
I'm thinking more towards the low end of the 114s, of course, as as the track evolves, and speaking of that, Magnus does a low 14 right there. So with that in mind, I'd like to revise my my answer for a high 13.
It's good timing on that. 14.2 is the quickest time by far. 4.10's Atlas Scopa, they're heading up into second place. 14.6. Interested to see what Faxland does. Where is our title?
Just coming into the final sector, the final couple of corners now.
Our title protagonist? I believe that was a purple sector too as well, but who knows if it was a real purple sector too. But it looks pretty good. And it is a 14.1 for Faxland. He goes on to divisional pole position. So I think you're right. I think there is a high 13 to be found. And Traxy then. So a short-lived provisional pole for Faxland. Traxy 14 flash. I would be surprised at this stage. Very surprised if we didn't see a 13, considering that's a 14 banker. So some competitive times already to be had here. It's a short run around this track. It's obviously quite a short track. So you're probably looking at about 3 runs. Most drivers will be, I'd say, aiming for. Although I always find it handy as Exam comes across the line here, comes into 7th. I always find it handy to have an extra set of tyres in reserve in a race. So I usually try and save a set of sauce myself, and you can either start on them or pit onto them, especially around Mexico, where the strategy can be a little bit up in the air sometimes. Certainly you can use some of the softer compounds. How would you go about it? Would you like to have an extra, like a fresh set of a soft heading into this race? Because you never quite know what could happen around here.
Yeah, obviously, what I would do, I would go for 2 laps on the medium tyres, then switch onto the sauce for the final 2 runs. So I would try and get 4 runs, but on 3 sets of tyres.
That's a good point. And some people here like Florian on a set of mediums, because if you don't want to spend the softs, you could still get some good reps around the track, get yourself a banker in, because I think it just settles you down, doesn't it? When you get a little banker in, just something to have on the board. You have some sort of reference, you have a delta you can work towards. Oh, big snap there for Florian. He caught it heading through, heading down towards the stadium section. But it can just settle you down a little bit, and you have something to build on. Even if it's a terrible lap time, you still have something on the board. Especially around a track like Mexico, it's we're going to see it tonight. There's going to be a lot of penalties, and it's a track where it's very easy to go over the limit of the track.
Yeah, and that's a key thing for qualifying as well. You want to get a lap on the board as early as possible. There's nothing worse than invalidating your first 2 runs and then needing to push and just overstep the boundaries as Neymar goes up into 4th there with a 14.3. Just don't want to be under pressure coming into the latter stage of qualifying. Now, 11 minutes to go. There's only 3 drivers yet to set a lap time, and they need to get out there and get a time on the board, otherwise they could be feeling that pressure coming towards the end of the session.
Yeah, especially at a track where it's so easy to do it. You just have anything on the board, I think is so important. I'm actually impressed that only 3 haven't got a representative lap on the board, because again, you're going to see it tonight. It is so easy to invalidate your lap time around here that I am impressed. And now, look, I know we're nearly halfway into the session, but regardless, that's more than it's a lot less than I thought would be invalidating their lap on their first run. So yeah, interested to see who the pressure gets to. And like you say, like the longer it goes on, the worse it gets. There's nothing worse. It adds unnecessary pressure to your final lap, where you just need to just zone in, get the best you can out of it, maximize everything, because qualifying is so important, of course, especially with how DRS trains can operate. And look, this is a track with 3 DRS zones, as Saike goes into 6th there. 3 DRS zones around this track. You could easily be sitting behind someone. Now look, this main straight is very long, so as long as you have a decent amount of front wing, lack of rear front wing, you could make some overtakes, but you could find yourself stuck behind someone, and qualifying is obviously the best way to get yourself up a little bit further and away from some of that chaos that can definitely come across your way, especially around a track like this. So yeah, just so keen not to have any of that unnecessary pressure at the end.
Yeah, and another thing as well is that pole position here, I know a lot of people will be aiming for pole, setting the fastest lap possible, but here it's not really necessary. It's because of how long that run is down into turn 1. Ideally, I think pole position here is probably the worst place to start.
Yeah, this is one of the few tracks. There are a few others come to mind, like Spain, like Russia, where perhaps starting on pole position is not a great idea. Like I'm on board with Lecala here. He's just gone past the start-finish line, the actual line, and it's a long, long, long way down to turn 1. We're going to see a lot of battery use heading down towards this first turn on the first run down. And if you're like in a second, oh, and he's lost it as a Toro Rosso, oh, or the AlphaTauri, excuse me. Good grief, can't believe I'm still getting that wrong. But he's lost it coming out of turn 3 into turn 3, and thankfully for him, it's just a broken front wing. Obviously, the lap is completely ruined, but he still has the four tires on the car, and that could have been disastrous. But traction zones, definitely a thing around this track too.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially coming out of turns 3 as you go onto the second DRS straight. It is very crucial just to get the traction down. So, as you said, it is. To me, this is a bit of an underestimated traction-heavy circuit.
Definitely. Oh, another spill. He actually tracks he's gone through, and again he's gone through that fast section as it turns 10 and 11. And I was just going to make this point as well, not just traction zones, but high speed zones where the car is unstable can definitely bite you. And Traxi, again, lucky that he has emerged with just a broken wing and all 4 tires still on the car. But definitely between turn 2 and turn 3, traction zones can get you heading out of turns more so 5 than 4, which is just a heavy braking zone. Turn 6, as you head down towards those fast S's, that can certainly catch you for a traction zone that could bite you as well. Then of course we just saw the high speed section 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11, where if you don't have the wing and you try and you leave yourself committed maybe longer than you possibly should be, depending on what kind of shape you enter, your car can get away from you in a hurry there. And then finally, even heading out of the stadium section, turn 14, it's a short run to that little, or turn 15 rather, it's a short little run to turn 16, what would you consider the last braking zone. And then even heading out of that, you can certainly be caught off guard as well. So this track is got plenty of danger zones that you have to be on your toes at all times. Between that and your track limits, this track usually separates the higher end drivers from the others.
Yeah, and speaking of higher end drivers, Florian there jumping up into second. He did catch up to a lot of traffic in that final sector, as you see the Alfa Romeo ahead of him. And I feel that he may have been able to snag pole position if he didn't catch up to that traffic. And around here, it's a bit difficult to kind of judge how much gaps to leave everyone when you're trying to set the flying lap. And interestingly enough, Storm now on the set of the mediums, he's coming straight back into the pits. But from my understanding, he done 2 laps on the softs, and he was using no ERS on those laps.
Storm usually, his qualifying can confuse me sometimes because I'm never quite sure what to expect. Because, oh, hold on, got one of the newer drivers that is the Alfa Romeo of, I believe it's Lucky, or is it Lukey? Oh, and he's made contact with the car passing by. That was one of the Williams. We just got all out of shape there, and that's a 5-place grid penalty for him as well for a collision. Unfortunately, because he was very much spinning out of control when it happened, and that was someone jumped there up into. Conti just jumped into the top 5 there.
I think it was Magnus that could have potentially jumped up there, or.
Oh, actually, I'll tell you what, Mike. Faxan is coming through the last corner, and I believe he's up 2 tenths up on his time as well. This could be the first lap into the 13s. It is, and by quite a margin too. 13.7. Actually, he was just under 3 tenths when I joined him there, and he's found another little bit of time through that last corner. So
Magnus
Faxan
is 2 tenths up as well as he comes through the final sector.
Big lock up. May have taken away some time. Could get into the 13s himself, so the times are falling. See what we can do. It is a 13.9, but you felt that snatch the break into that heavy breaking point of turn 13 into the stadium's not heavy braking, but very slow corner. And perhaps more time to find there. Still time to get back into. Oh, it's going to be tight. He might want to get a move on if he wants to get back into the pits and back out again. It's a short track. I think he should have enough time, given how short this track is. But a good time, nevertheless, on the front row of that grid.
Yeah, good time there for Magnus. I think he should be fine to get back into the pits. It depends how long the pit crew want to take putting his car back into the pits, but obviously everyone in the pits now will start to psych themselves up for the final runs, and of course we got a couple who have come out in their out laps just in case they may be snatching invalidation on their first lap. And I think that's a smart call from a lot of these guys. You want to get out with enough time that you could possibly get 2 runs in.
Always on a track where it's very possible, such as another example could be Canada, for example. There are some tracks where it's quite tough, I find, to get an invalidation, so there's no real point of staying
Like Bahrain.
out. Yeah, that's a good example. You can do it, but it's more likely most drivers are avoiding such a fate, but especially on a track like this, makes absolute sense. Just have to make sure you fuel up for enough as well, that if you do it, you can immediately just stick it down to lean and save all the fuel you need to. Because it's all good to save the time, but you need the fuel as well.
Yeah, and I was just checking the race director, because obviously the collision between... I'm going to go with Lukey and Sygate. But yeah, I was just looking to see if Sygate got awarded a grid drop as well, because it didn't pop up for me, and he did. So Sygate is going to be getting a 5-place grid drop as well.
So currently 12th. He's actually just starting a lap, I believe. He's actually one of the ones that was out early, so we'll stick with him as he goes through this his potentially last flying lap, assuming he carries through. So wherever he places himself, he'll be dropping down 5 places as well. Good catch, because you're right, it did not pop up. A little bit down the first sector, not by much though. Oh, he's gone very wide, and that's going to be because you want to take. Ideally, you do want to take a wide entry heading into that next corner, but too much liberty, and yeah, that is the fate you will suffer. Now, who is next on a flying lap is the question. I believe Heartbroken Lion. There's a Renault in front of him of Zam. I believe he is the next one. Ooh, has to lift quite a bit through that. Didn't get his line completely correct, but he's a 10th up. Zam usually qualifies quite a bit higher than this, so it is unusual to see him further down here. So maybe just not nailing it when he needs to. Again, those curbs as well, not helping either. New to this game compared to previous ones.
As Lion also gets onto the curves and invalidates in the corner.
He's 3/10 up as well. So again, you're going to see plenty of invalidations here to finish. Where is Lucky? He is invalid, of course. Faxland is beginning his lap, leaving just time for the run. Florian, his team. Where's Storm?
Up into 8th.
14-4 for Storm. Sometimes likes to commit to the alternate strategy after the top 10, but we'll see if that can still hold up. At the scope of just beginning his flying lap. 20 seconds left. Where is that? Where's Magnus? He's just beginning his flying lap as well. Time ticking down. McMaverick is invalidated his lap, and he's not going to get across the line in time. His teammate
Traxy.
Oh, Traxy. 13-5. Wow. Can he even get lower than that? I wonder. Who is next? Where is Khan? Khan is invalidated his lap. The check flag is out, so this will be it.
Moving into the line, and it is an improvement, but it doesn't improve his position as we got Conti now to the line.
Improvement, but I'm afraid not by much, as that's more like it from Zam. 14-4 into 7th there. He has another run in him then, so moves up into 7th place. Lucky again has invalidated Faxland. Oh, Faxland had to bail on his lap, invalidated somewhere along the way, and he goes into the pits. Neymar, big improvement there. 13.
He invalidated.
Wait, invalidated. You're right. I was like 13-7. What? But why is he still
Magnus
sixth?
is about 2 tenths up on his time right now, so he might be able to get ahead of Faxland. Or if he finds a bit more time in the final sector, but no, he just
Ooh,
can't find enough.
lost about 600 it seemed. Late on, McMaverick stays on 12th then. Surprising. His teammate Brewich right behind him in 13th. I believe that
That's it.
is going to do it. So, a great lap there from Traxy. I'm not sure if... I do think Faxon and Magnus had a bit more in the tank, but still, nevertheless, even if you kind of simulate all that, it still looks like it's going to be a very close race. So that's exciting. It is Traxy though, on pole position. But of course the box seats, as we've discussed, possibly Faxland, Magnus and Florian all sitting in. Even Atlas Scopo there in 5th place could be an interesting factor heading down towards turn 1 as well. Remember, Faxland only needs to finish ahead of Storm to claim this title, and at the moment you'd say he's looking handy enough for that. So I wonder, because the gap is quite large between Faxland and Summer, I wonder how Faxland takes this. Does he take that title approach to it and just survive and just get the result he needs, or does he treat it as any other race where he's willing to? Because look, Faxland is a hard racer. He'll get his nose stuck in. It doesn't always work out. He can end up in incidents and sometimes does. But I wonder, with the title possibly, being up for grabs today, I wonder if he'll go about it that way.
I think the possibilities of a championship on the line at this race changes how anyone drives. You got to approach it a bit smartly with that championship in mind. So we may be seeing hard racing for him, but maybe not as hard as previously seen.
I think it's very possible, and that's a sensible approach to the situation. So just to recap, it is Traxy ahead of Faxland then pole position. Then Faxland just needs to finish ahead of Storm to claim the title. Magnus then in lining off 3rd, Florian then 4th, Asascope 5th, Conti, good result for him in qualifying in 6th, Neymar in 7th, Zaman 8th, Khan in 9th, and Storm in 10th. And I do wonder, with Storm starting 10th, I wonder if he'll be regretting that slightly now that he's starting 10th. I wonder if he might be thinking he'd be better served with a fresh set of boots outside the top 10. But we'll see what way they'll all go about it, because I'm sure we're going to see possibly a lot of different approaches to strategy here today. Ooh, darky.
Ooh, hang on. The
A
clouds are out.
dark, cloudy weather here. Indicative, perhaps? Well, we'll find out. Be interested to see what indication if by the tyres people start on. But certainly interesting to keep an eye on if it becomes a factor. I always like not knowing because, you know, it adds a bit of spice to the equation. Not knowing, because sometimes the drivers do is just outright say, "Hey, it's dry" or "It's going to rain." And always from this point of view, I always preferred not knowing. But that's just me. It'd be interesting to see what happens.
Well, I mean, the clouds are out. It could go to Indus, but it could clear up very quickly. I mean, on this game, it really does decide on a flick of a knife what it wants to do.
Very much so. I'm sure we'll see all sorts of funky stuff happening today. 10 seconds left for drivers. Again, well, quite a bit. If the weather is to play a factor, maybe there's quite a bit to decide. Maybe there's not. Maybe it's 5 minutes and it's soft for everyone. Well, we'll find out in about 3 seconds. Because as they line up, very good. Formation lap is on. Always good to see. Sometimes you can be caught sleeping there sometimes.
Interesting mix outside the top 10.
So, Mikala, Brewich, Broken Lion, and Cygate electing for the medium tyres. Maverick, Maximus, and Lucky electing for the softs. Of course, inside the top 10. Everyone qualified on softs, so no deviation there. They are forced to start on those tyres. Strategy, of course, will always be interesting. What's your take on strategy? What do you think we'll see? Having now we see the tyres for everyone.
It's got to be a two-stop for everyone, I think. the two-stop for me is faster than the one-stop, but
Mm.
for the likes of for Cygate, Lion, they may be thinking about that one-stop mediums to hards, but it's just, to me, the hards are just too slow of a race tire to really get yourself in the sharp end of things for too long.
That was my thought exactly, was are the hards just too slow? I think it's similar around Canada. I believe Canada you could do the two-stop and it's quicker than the one. Just the hard tires just don't. Yeah, especially in look, high speed like tire wear is obviously high here. High load situation, they're not going to feel great. I think you're definitely going to see the benefit of a having a softer compound tire on. And this is where, if anyone did manage to keep themselves a spare set of softs, then they're going to be rewarded for it, I think, in this race. I think it's possible.
Yep, and well, speaking of Zam, who may have that fresh set available, because his lap time was on 2-lap-old soft tyre, so he'll probably be the first one to feel the effects of tyre wear, but he may be thankful that he saved that extra set.
Might hurt to start, but certainly to finish, possibly not. I know Florian may have done some runs on. I believe he did start his qualifying on medium as well, so it could be an interesting race.
Storm, definitely.
Indeed. Here we go then. 5 red lights, a long run down to turn 1, and away we go. Looks like a good start for Faxland, and Traxy's second phase was excellent, clearing away, and Florian's going to be challenging Faxland down to turn 1. All the DRS is being used. Magnus on the left hand side as well. Oh, there's a car on the wall. Oh, it looked like it, didn't it? It was just the camera disappeared just at the same time, but through they go then. Traxy is leading the way. Florian's got the jump on Faxland. At the back, it seems very well behaved. At the Scopo has dropped a lot of places. And he does, doesn't he? Right hand side. So we did see some chaos happening behind, but it's McMaverick and Magnus. And Magnus has got wing damage as well. I think what happened, he was hit. Oh, there's more wing flying in the back. I think that's more Renault wing flying back. That may have been Atlas Scopo as well, but the two AlphaTauris moving through Likala and Khan. So disaster start for Magnus. I did see someone veer into his left hand, his right, as he negotiates this tough section with wing damage. Very difficult to do. Cars behind are going to have to be very, very careful as they navigate their way through the S's for the first time today. And Atlascopo, even though wing damage, he's making his move on Saige at the back, but just lacking the downforce. I think someone hit into the side of Magnus, and that's what it looked like as the camera changed. It looked like he was going to be peered into the wall, but as Traxy's no, sorry, the timing screens are all over the place. Of course, it is lap 2, not lap 3. DRS will be enabled next time round, so it takes a lap or 2 for these things to sort themselves out. But DRS, of course, is key. With 3 DRS zones, everyone will be queuing up to try and get themselves in that range.
Yep, and honestly, looking at the gaps, so I can't take anything for granted at the moment because of the time engage, but
yeah,
the gaps at the moment, they look slightly spread out a little bit. A lot of people seem to be on the edge of that DRS window.
Yeah, looks like they're going to sort themselves now in a sec. So Magnus in for set of hards, probably the right way to pivot, to be fair. Also indicative perhaps of the weather as well. Dirty air, very much a factor through this part of the track, and already you're going to see the side effects of it. Florian picking up a 3-second penalty on lap 2, so it begins, and it's begun early, and his teammate has suffered the same fate himself, so he's staying out without wing damage, it seems, is Storm. So perhaps just wanting just to get this soft stint out of the way and pitch as he normally would, and to replace the wing as well. But DRS is now enabled. Traxy 1.8 seconds ahead of Faxland, and Florian's out of the DRS range 2, so Zam will be the first one to pick it up from the car in front, which is Florian, who has got that very early penalty, and actually Maverick in the slipstream running low on fuel, so he's decided to underfuel the car here, and actually his teammate is making a move.
Interestingly, he's underfueled the car. Could be a sign of possible changeable conditions that could happen.
Sometimes it's just a gamble as well. Sometimes you just, perhaps a safety car comes out and you
Just couldn't get it done, but he's got the switch back, and what a move from Maverick.
Conti going wide, and Maverick is through. He was going to be threatening anyways when DRS was enabled, so lighter moving car, it seems, at this phase of the race. But you just see how he recuperates, to what extent he's underfueled the car, and how much he can gain some of that back. And, well, I mean, that's going to be a common theme. Just see him clipping the limits there, and a 3-second penalty. So, yeah, this race, we knew it heading in. There's going to be a lot of places potentially decided by penalties. So, all the way to lap 36, it's going to be chop and change.
Faxland sets the new fastest lap of the race, and well, I think Faxland is just comfortable right now. He knows that he hasn't really got to push too much because Storm is quite some way back behind him, and right now, looking at his ERS usage as well, he has depleted it all pretty much.
I'd say an effort to try and get within DRS, to be fair. Two AlphaTauris very close together, as are Neymar and Storm. This is for 9th place. I think Williams driver going to make a move as well as commotion up in front as well. I think actually Nicala let Khan go there because Nicala's on medium tyres, and makes good teamwork there. Makes sense to be switching that up. So Khan will go on, and we will come back to Nicala later on, and they could make that swap because they're still out of DRS range to Neymar behind. But I wonder now that he's been released how quickly it will take for Neymar to get within that DRS range in front.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But right now, Conti, he is on the edge of getting DRS. I'm not sure.
That's gonna be close. I think he just went past the line. I think he dropped out of that second range, but did get a much better run as a Storm now comes into the pits. Got a much better run because he's had to close up quite a bit before activating that in DRS. So just shows how fine the margins can be. He is the only driver in the top 5 here who he's not even the top 5, as Maximus and Cygate. Oh, Maximus much later on the brakes there. Gets that move done. Let's go back to Conti though. Second run, electing not to use his overtake for the time being. So he's getting closer, as well as Faxland, who's now got himself within that DRS range. And you're right, he's not been shy about using that overtake, but you'd have to say it's probably paid off since he's got back within that DRS range now.
Yeah, now we can use the DRS of Traxi and to try and save some of that ERS back. The big issue now for Traxi is he's got to be smart about where he uses his ERS to try and pull back out of that second, because the DRS will definitely help Faxland close in, so he doesn't really want to waste it all on the straight.
Ooh. Back end kicking out there for Faxland. He's 9 tenths behind as he activates it now, just under 9 tenths. Let's see how close he can get with it, just so we're looking at the kind of range you would need to overtake. Plus, don't forget that the closer he is, the more slipstream will come into effect as well. So you've close about 4 and a bit tenths, we'll say, on that. I think 6 or so tenths is probably what you would need to vault yourself past, because you'll use, as Conti getting very close as well, you'll use the slipstream closer to the car. When you're a little bit closer, that will help you vault a little bit more than, say, if you're 9 tenths back.
Yeah, and obviously this section now, the middle sector, that's when the dirty air effect is really going to start to kick in. So you will see Faxland just drop back slightly, especially for the S section here, as he already drops back around about 2 tenths there, but you'll probably gain that back somewhat with this DRS zone.
You can see how the dirty air would affect him through that S section. A little less at lower speeds, but still not ideal. You want to be careful. You used to be able to ride that curve before, not so much now. Again, it's a similar kind of range, isn't it? Just 8 to 9 tenths, and he's got limited ERS. So at this range, Traxi I think has got everything covered. And Faxland even not even using his ERS this time round. Overtake heading down. Of course, well, he's using ERS all the time, but just not using the overtake that time.
Conti once again getting a fantastic run at the final corner. He doesn't pick up DRS this time on Maverick, so Khan just slowly starting to reel him in a bit.
He's definitely carrying that AlphaTauri closer towards him. And I'll tell you what, his teammate isn't too far away either in Lee Kala from that DRS range as well, and Neymar not too far behind that either. So possible train begin to pick up behind McMaverick. So Conti maybe to just invite a little less pressure if he can. He's got plenty of ERS to well, so is McMaverick, to be fair. They're both just managing their race at the moment, but you don't want to be overtaken if possible, even if you've got a nice store of reserves there. So Conti looking a little bit better through that S section than McMaverick. Clouds are definitely closing in. So
yeah, it's just a bit too overcast right now.
It's enough overcast to make you think something could happen. But then I look down at Magnus on hards, and I wonder, is that just, is he just going as long as possible and go to the possible rain? Oh, we've got someone in. It's Zam is in. So Zam running a relatively quiet race there. He's in. He's the first of the front runners to go. Medium tyres as well. And we were just talking about Conti possibly having to defend. Oh, much later on the brakes. He's like we had to hang it down the inside. No, wisely backs out of it. So Connet up one spot. Oh, back and it's getting away. Oh, Conti the same thing. And Licala comes through. And will he get a slipstream? He gets a slipstream on his teammate, alright, but that's disappointing for Conti. He went from possibly taking back that place to losing another place. And so from following McMaverick, he's now got two AlphaTauris in front of him and a Williams right behind him for company. So nice little scrap here for a P4 at the moment.
Yeah, and it's exactly as we were saying earlier, as Maverick picks up a 3-second time penalty. That traction zone can catch you out if you're just a little bit too greedy on the throttle. A bit too soon he was it.
Faxland's much closer this time around to Traxi heading through this section, unless someone should pit, I think, at this stage. He's going to... No undercut there. I thought maybe Faxland would initiate the undercut, but he might be able to get through himself. 5 tenths. Now this would be a good test. 5 tenths. He's managed to save up some ERS. Is he going to use any of it? Or is he going to save it and pull himself up for a move heading down towards turn 4? It looks to be the case. He's reeling in as McMaverick and Conti are in, but we're going to stay at the front here for a possible change of the lead on lap 9. Let's see.
And the AlphaTauri swap positions as well.
Oh, Faxland again. Another person caught out by that traction zone again. A possible overtaking opportunity goes a begging. As you say, AlphaTauris have swapped positions because I think that crossover point is hit between the mediums and the softs. McMaverick and Conti are in. They are 2.6 seconds behind, or just around 3 seconds behind Zam, who pitted the lap before, but he was ahead, I believe. Oh, and Conti and Storm just emerging for the pits, rather. So a car between Conti and McMaverick then.
And a lot of time.
That's a lot.
McMaverick, yeah.
Has Conti changed the wing, possibly?
I'm just going to check to see if he had a 5-second time penalty, because that looks like it could be a 5-second.
Didn't Codemasters add a thing where you could check if they changed the wing or not? Well, I'm not sure on that, but Traxi is in. He's deciding to prevent the undercut by peeling into the pits then. Who else? Florian's in as well. Will Khan follow them in? No, Khan carries on his softs. And Maximus heads on too. Anyone who's come into the pits, other than Magnus, has stuck on the medium compound tyres. And that looks like... Traxi going for softs. Aggressive middle stint then. I think that's a good idea. Why don't you put some separation between himself and Faxland? Problem is though, he's got Saigate in front of him on medium, so you're going to have to hope he catches Saigate at the right point in the track where he can quickly make a move and dispatch that Williams. Because one thing we know about Saigate, he is stern in his defence, and you won't be able to catch him, say, at the wrong part of the track and lose a lot of time. That would be very detrimental for tracks. But let's see how quickly the response is for Faxland out front. Clear air now. So let's see what he can do. Yep. If he'll immediately respond, or if he'll dive in.
Well, you were speaking about Traxi catching Saigate. just catch them towards the end of the lap, so he should be looking pretty decent just to get past with DRS down the main straight.
Well, we'll see how powerful this undercut is, because Faxland is in, and it's probably one of the worst places you could catch. Now, yeah, you lose a little bit of time, but not too much. Not as much as he would follow through the S's, but this would be an easy move. But let's see where Faxland will come in. Neymar and other soft runners are into the pits as well. Where's Faxland? There he is. Oh, and there's I think that's Heartbroken Line. I think he's had an accident there. Faxland is over 2 seconds behind Traxi there, so nice little undercut there for Traxi. Put some separation between himself, and he's got to extend the gap quite a bit because Faxland has got medium tyres on, so this is a crucial phase of the race for Traxi. He's got to dispatch that racing point soon and then start to run into that gap to Licala and just stretch as much as he can. Oh, you can see
he wanted to go for the move.
He did. This is a part of track where this would have been disastrous for his outlap had he caught Sygate here. This isn't ideal, not race breaking, not ideal though, to be behind at this phase or this part of the track.
For Traxi now, he just needs to be a bit patient. He knows he's going to get past a racing point now, and after that he just needs to start eating into that time towards Licala.
The good news for him is that Faxland was similarly stuck behind Sygate through that part of the track as well. He'll make a very easy move here himself as well. So Faxland's through on Sygate, and Traxi is going to get through on Brewich here. That actually did not cost Traxi as much as maybe it would have with the car being in between him and Faxland. So the gap is just about 2.5 seconds or so, for about just around 3 seconds between Traxi and Faxland. But now is the big moments here for Traxi. He's got to push on those softs and create as much of a gap as he can, because, well, we assume Faxland will be sticking on a set of the soft compound tyres to finish this race. And yeah, the difference of obviously the pace difference will be there, so important laps for Traxi here.
Yeah, and looking at the clouds, it does seem to be getting brighter out this, so maybe we will see it dry throughout.
He's immediately going purple through middle sector, so this is what he needs to do, and he's catching up to Licala quite quickly. So the next phase of this race is going to be when these Maximus put on hard. So Maximus looks like he's trying a one-stop here. Is Maximus going to the end of the race on those hards? Interesting how that works out. Just waiting for these medium runners to come in, basically, to kick off this next phase of the race.
And looking at the gap between Traxi and Faxland, looks like he's gained about half a second on him in that one lap in clear air, and now Faxland is stuck behind Blue Rich. But not for long. DRS wide open, and he'll go to the outside for turn 4, and job done, and up into third. And that was big for Faxland, the dispatch of Blue Rich quite quickly.
Yeah, important place for the track to do it. We won't be stuck here, for instance, with it. So now it'll be interesting to see what Faxland's pace is like. What kind of pace does he need? What kind of gap does he need this to be for him to stretch his advantage on those softs come towards the end of the race? Plenty of time to figure out, but very much each driver has to settle into their stint now. The track's a bit of a shorter burst than Faxland, obviously, on those mediums. But apart from that, Florian closing up to the back of Sygate here. Apart from that, it's quite spread out now. As again, we just wait for these next phases to kind of kick into gear. These medium runners coming in for their next stop, and then obviously the lap. It's interesting that as Sygate comes into the pits, it's interesting that of all these people to pit from softs to their second stint, Traxi's the only one that went in the direction of the soft compound tyres there.
Yeah, I think that's just more build a big enough gap between him and Faxland, so that when it comes to the final stint, he has a pretty sizable gap. Because not only will he have that, he will be pitting, I think, a bit earlier to check on the set of the medium, so you have that plus the undercut advantage.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it was just to create some separation, because it seems like this is a strategy regardless. As Magnus and Atlas Skopov jostling for position here. We'll come back to that in a sec. Normally I'd stay with it, but for a change in lead happening here, will he head into? Oh, this could be first little overtake into this section. And Licala doesn't fight that; just lets it happen. But trying to see if that was. Surely Atlas is trying to overtake Magnus here rather than the other way around on those mediums.
Yeah, I think Magnus might have just made the overtake on that. Let's say.
Virtual safety car is out because Magnus has lost it through the S section. So we talked about the hard compound tires. I mentioned particularly about how they might not just give the grip, and through that high speed section, Maximus is out. Virtual safety car is out. This is perfect because Licala had literally come into the pits anyways. Brevich is coming into the pits then as well. A couple of people are taking this opportunity to pit under the VSC. Licala onto hards. He's just going to merge behind his teammate there. So VSC is out. Conti, Storm pitting as well. They're going to medium tyres as well.
This is absolutely infuriating for Traxi right now because he is losing the life of those soft tyres and not being able to extend that gap.
Thankfully for him, it's a VSC rather than a full safety car. But let's see how see when this gets going and see if anyone. Oh, Magnus is. I was just going to say, will anyone get caught for speeding? And there is Magnus. So a driving penalty for Magnus. He'll have to serve that in the next 3 laps. We are under racing once again, and I reckon Faxland has gained about 4/10 or so in that under that VSC. Gap is 3.6 now between himself and Traxi for the lead of this race.
Yeah, and we got Neymar also on the back of Lakeda.
Who of course is pitted for hards. So interesting. So I was wondering, because he came into the pits just before that VSC was deployed. And I was wondering perhaps why he was coming in so early on those mediums, but turns out, and Khan is round. His teammate is lost coming out of the final corner there. I just noticed the AlphaTauri facing the wrong way from the onboard of Neymar, and he's going to take the time to pit as well. I'm not sure if he's got wing damage from that, but I was wondering why Licala pitted so early, but it turns out to go onto the hards and no wing. But he's going to pivot on the strategy, though. That's interesting to say the least. He's going to pivot on the strategy and go hards to the end. So both AlphaTauris on the hard compound tyre.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the thing is, the hards, they are consistent, but they are slow. So I wouldn't expect to see Lakeda or Khan really set the times of light and start closing up to the likes of Atlas right now, who is currently on 11 lap old mediums. I think even they would outpace the hards at the moment.
Licala is an interesting one because he was probably genuinely inside the top 7 there, and he's the only one I'd say of that group who has pivoted to that extreme onto that tyre. He's 20 seconds behind Traxi, so a pit stop here is actually it's not too long of a pit lane, to be fair. So he's going to emerge behind. Traxi's going to emerge ahead of him still when he pits. But you're interested to see from Florian or Zam downwards to see how that develops.
Yeah, and speaking of Traxi, it looks like he is starting to lose that advantage of those soft tyres, because it looks like Faxland is starting to gain a little bit of time on him now through the corners.
Neymar dispatches Licala then for a P6, but Licala doesn't need to fight some of these too much because, well, Neymar certainly will be pitting again. Licala can go to the end of the race, so no real point fighting those. The cars Licala is fighting realistically are in front of him now, with Florian, Zam, McMaverick. These are the kind of drivers that he's going to be looking at now. It's going to be interesting to see how it works. Hopefully, unlike it's going to be interesting to see how it would have turned out for Maximus, but a bit further down. So this could be a bit more of a representative, I guess, trial, what we call it, of the 1 versus the 2. 12 laps is the furthest a current set of mediums are being carried. Because and the reason why I'm thinking about that is because Traxy isn't too far away, you would imagine, from another pit stop. But this is just the halfway stage of the race now. As we've got some positions potentially changing here. We'll come back to that thought in a sec. 3 cars here. Atlas.
Seagate, Atlas and Conti, they have been looking for moves on each other the entire time. I think it's going to get close to 3 wide down the main straight.
Oh, the dispatch Atlas. Conti on the inside of Seagate. Oh, they touch. The wings looked fine. Outside becomes the inside. To be fair, Saigate's hung out well on the outside on those hards. And using everything at his disposal.
And like Conti really trying to squeeze Seagate all the way to that inside. The compromise is turning for turn 4, and it seems to have worked. He's up in the P9.
Nice move around the outside then, becoming the inside then for the infield section, and that is Conti into 9th place on those fresh mediums. But I'm just curious how far, because we've just crossed half distance now. I said mediums take 18 or so laps would be I think a tough ask. So he's going to extend that the stint a little bit. Is Traxy, and as you mentioned, oh, he's kicking that position back. You can see how he's got no ERS has Neymar, so he can't take that position back. Good sign for the Licala on those hards to be competitive and taking positions back on those hards, because those mediums are only 7 laps old. They're not old by any means really, but Faxland is eating into this gap. I wonder for a lap or two from Traxy pitching. It'd be pretty disastrous if he pitted and Faxland was in his DRS essentially, with Faxland to use those softs at the end of the race. So you have to say the momentum is switched back to Faxland here somewhat in this middle stint.
The gap down now to 1.8 seconds. So it's just on board with Luki, who gets a bit of a tank slapper coming up with turn 3.
Tank slapper for Faxland too. He's a few times he's had to catch that back end hang out of that last corner. Would not surprise me at all if because more often than not when you see these things happen, like, you play with fire so many times, eventually you're going to get burned. I've seen Faxland try to rescue that car coming out of that last corner on more than a few occasions. I do wonder if eventually we could see him in that wall. It's happened a few times. Oh, and Lucky is out. He's another. Oh my! It's the second Alfa Romeo to lose it. VSC is deployed. Second Alfa Romeo to lose it through that section, and the second VSC to be deployed. Now then, I do wonder how long this VSC lasts for, and if it's still ongoing in any way, shape or form, if Traxy will decide to come in.
I think Traxy will be in regardless. Kind of have to. He's like right at the end of those softs, right at the end of the tyre life of those soft tyres. He's losing time hand over fist now to Faxland. It does make logical sense to just pit in, check on the mediums and try and go to the end.
And he is in. So well, just as he gained nothing from that, did Traxy, because it literally turned green as he went into the pits. So medium tyres for him. A drive penalty for Khan, as you say. He's one of the AlphaTauris to go onto the hards. Storm on the back of Atlas Scopo here is an interesting little battle emerging.
Just ahead of Makeda.
So as we kind of expected, he probably would. So he shouldn't have any troubles extending a gap to the Kala on those mediums, and Atlas into the pit. So 15 laps is how far those and they look pretty battered, to be fair. So 15 laps on those, well, 16 laps essentially on those mediums.
And he was doing a pretty decent job when he was battling with Conti and Seagate. Did lose a bit of time once Storm closed up to the back of him and was putting him under pressure, but yeah, see what he can do on this final stint. He's on a set of the mediums now. Most likely going to the end of the race to see how many places he can gain by doing this. I say slight undercut because he would only be, if anyone's going to pit again that he could possibly get close to, it would probably be. Actually, I didn't realise the gaps were that big. Never mind.
Traxy come through on McMaverick. So when you're mentioning that, it also strikes another little interesting thing to keep in mind is that Traxy is going to get some sort of undercut on Faxland here because he is on fresh mediums, and Faxland is coming towards the latter stage of those mediums himself. So there will be some time gained back from Traxy here on Faxland. So as much as we were talking about how Faxland was digging into his gap on the softs, this was always inevitable that this other part would kick back as Traxy comes into the pits to put on a fresher set of tyres. So he will gain some of this time he lost back. It's going to be very interesting to see what that gap is when Faxland does come into the pits as a crew. Oh, he's gone. Oh, Ginny Mackey's gone very, very deep, and Zam taking that position back. Really wanted to get that move done.
I would have stuck behind Zam for that double DRS usage down the main straight because Zam is just going to get right back through now.
6/10 possibly.
He's just had an awful run at the final corner, so maybe not. But
yeah, I think you're right. To be fair, he was a bit far back to really make a comfortable move, and he definitely overshot the corner. But he also could have risked a penalty because very silently here, he and Faxland are two of the drivers who haven't picked up penalties, and they are crucially fighting for the lead of this race. So this will matter. This will certainly matter in their fight, and it's very noteworthy that they're two drivers who've not got penalties as of yet. So he could have easily risked a track limits warning there. So
and Lakela.
Yeah, Michaela silently is the only other person other than the two racing for the lead of this race without a penalty so far. So yeah, another factor of that hard strategy. If you can not pick up a penalty, then certainly you can make it work. For example, well, we know Zam's got the pit, but Florian, for example, Mikala could be looking at a little podium here potentially at this rate.
Yeah, it's definitely not out of the question of him being able to do that. Maybe not on track, but maybe through jumping on penalties.
6 seconds does Florian have on penalties, and you look at the gap from the leader. So he is 30 seconds behind Faxland. He's about, what, 10 seconds? About that, just under 10 seconds ahead of Vikala, with another stop to come. So it could get close. I think it will come down to penalties. I think you're right, because you assume the soft tyres will go on Florian's car.
Yeah, crucially now for Lakeda is how much pressure is Neymar gonna put Lakeda under, because if Neymar starts sticking his nose down the inside and just putting Lakeda off his ideal racing line, just scrub off a lot of time, and that advantage that he will have once Florian makes that pit stop, that'll kind of make it a bit more difficult to keep Florian behind. And obviously with Florian on those softs, he will be able to build a gap pretty quickly if he gets past.
To be fair to Lee Calla, for everything we've seen so far, he's chosen his battles. He's chosen his battles, and if Neymar does go sticky his nose in, it feels like he would know that he's going to have to pit again anyways, and there's nothing to be gained by fighting him. If Zam comes into the pits, then nothing to be gained by fighting Neymar, because he does have to make another stop. But look, this has been the case for a little bit. He's got very little ERS to do anything with, so if he did come sniffing close, well, to be fair, Cal doesn't have a ton either, so I thought he might have a bit more, but look, I think he'll know to fight / not fight that. But I'll tell you what is interesting though is, look, we knew Traxxas would be making a move cutting down that gap. Be interested to see if he catches Florian or not. Faxland will be hoping he does before he comes into the pits.
Yeah, and only 1.3 off, so you gotta think he may get within. Oh, he's already in DRS. Oh yeah, because of Ryan being lapped. And I think that's actually kind of bad for Faxland, who comes into the pits now. Actually getting that extra little bit of DRS just gives him a little bit of extra time.
So obviously soft compound tyres, we knew this was going to be the case. 11 laps, including the one they're on the softs towards the end of the race. Do you think he'll be feeling the effects of that come lap 35, 36?
Yeah, I think in the final few laps is where his tyres will drop off, but Traxy's tyres will be reaching the end of their life as well, so I think it will kind of level out for a bit.
I think so. He's 5.2 behind, and he's got a penalty now as well. He's got a 3-second penalty, has Faxland. That might have just cost him the race, because now it's an 8-second gap essentially. But I mean, saying that, it's coming down quickly.
And the gap between Florian and Lakela is 12 seconds as we got a...
The other AlphaTauri is round.
Yeah, that's calm.
And there is a penalty for Lakela as well. So Traxy is the last man standing without a penalty. We're talking about Florian. Brewich, he's going to have to pit. He's not getting those mediums to the end. So the gap between Lakela and Florian, it looks about to be about 11 seconds or so. Just under 12 seconds.
Yeah, it's coming down. It's come down by around about a second so far this lap.
I think even with that penalty for Lakela just now, I think he's still in a good spot for that podium. However, at the front here, this gap has already come down to 4 seconds. Under 4 seconds. So it's a lapse of fury for Faxland, but I do think he's going to be feeling the strain of those tyres come the end of the race. I think more so than Traxy will on those mediums towards the end. We'll see though.
We got Zam closing in on Maverick. Very late on using his ERS. They possibly could have got close enough if he used it a bit sooner.
See, we're a few laps away here from all these strategies converging. Some people left to pit on the mediums, some guys on fresher mediums catching up as Zam is here. Goes around the outside. He's going to get that move done, isn't he? That's a nice move. And can McMahon get a switch back? He's going to lunge it up the inside. He's been left the space. Good racing here. But as you say, Zam will just out traction. And he's in 7th place. But all the strategies beginning to converge now. Some people now on fresh softs, some people yet to come in who will do, set those softs as well. So it is now finally coming together. That gap is thundering down. Faxland is much quicker this phase of the race, 1.9 seconds, just has a fast lap of the race as well. Even with that penalty, he is coming thick and fast towards Traxy. And now Florian takes that mantle as Brewich comes into the pits then. 15.9 is a new threshold, so 8 seconds is his gap to Lakela. And his penalty situation, wrong one, you can see there, he's got 6 seconds to Lakela's 3. His work is cut out.
Around 11 seconds he needs to pull in all together, and it is flying down. I think the good thing for Florian, and as it is for Faxland as well, was the clear air. They didn't come out with traffic in front of him.
He is horsing that gap down. He is catching Traxy. It is unbelievable how quickly he has caught him. Now he is already 3/10 down on his best time. Now the softs won't expire that quickly, but he has made up that time in an unbelievably short amount of time. He is going to take the lead of this race in about 20 seconds.
Hit the gap under 5/10 of a second. There is no hope in defending from that, and he's got no ERS to defend with anyway. As the overspeed comes now for Faxland, who may look around the outside of turn 1. Doesn't outbreak himself, sticks behind Traxy for the time being, but could run out of turn 3. Using a bit of overtake and DRS, and here he goes now. And it's done before braking zone of turn 4.
I thought Traxy was going to leave his car in there for a sec, but I thought he's risking his front wing being chopped. But Faxland is through it now. His next phase of the race begins, building a gap. 3 seconds is what he needs at this moment in time, and well, he'll do well to keep it at that and hope. Because look, he's got a job to do. He's got to push, but having looked at that and seeing he's already broken out of DRS, I think Faxland has moved into comfortability. I think he should be able to easily pull a second and a half in the next 7 laps.
Yep, and speaking of, another VSC as Khan is out of the race, and that could be a saving grace for both Traxy and Lakeda. Just that extra bit of time where the soft runners can't gain a huge amount of time around, because Florian was rapidly closing up to Lakeda for third.
Yeah, 5.7 seconds. I wonder if Conti's got a lot of penalties, by the way. I think he's got about 14 seconds. He does. Not as much as Sygate though. 24 seconds. My goodness, that is close to disqualification range. 15 for McMaverick. So penalties really are racking up. No surprise that Conti comes into the pits because, well, it's VSC and his tyres are 14 laps old, heading on 15 laps. So no brainer there. I believe that's the last, and serving a penalty as well. I believe that'll be the last of the people who we expect to come into the pits. We are racing once again though. 6.5 laps to go, including the one we're on. Plenty of chop and change still to happen in this race once they cross the start-finish line. But looking good for Faxland though. That gap has just stabilised just a little bit, but now that DRS and obviously green flag is up and running once again after that, VSE is now free to resume his charge to try and extend a gap on Traxy. He needs 3 seconds to maintain the lead of this race.
Is Faxland going to do it in style here? Take the win and the championship, because Storm is absolutely nowhere in this race, so
essentially just needs to cross the line.
Yeah, it's all in Faxland's court now. He's got a massive advantage. The only thing that could affect things is possibly an SC, but I think we're past that point where an SC would really be any use to anyone, because I think Storm may even be a lap down at this point.
Won't be too far away. A little battle here for P5 rather at this stage. Zam and Neymar. The soft compound tyres on for Neymar, but I thought he would have been a bit closer heading out of that last sector there. But still on the back of that Renault. 2.5 seconds to go. So it's not growing as quickly as it was for Faxland, but he is still looking good. He's got plenty of time to do this with, but it has just stabilised, I'd say, this last lap or so.
Florian 1.6 behind Lakeda now.
Now the difference here is 3 seconds essentially with penalties, so he's got to dispatch that AlphaTauri and then build a 3-second gap on top of that. In the meantime, battle for 5th still going on. 7/10 of gap between Neymar and Zam. See if this is close enough. He's struggled with ERS management all race long, so he's going to have to be on the rear wing essentially about 3 or 4 tenths to really have a go, because Zam does have some ERS in reserve that he can just use to boost if he needs it. See if he does out of this corner. He is now responding, and it just gives him just that little boost that he needs just to prevent Neymar from just getting too close. But certainly soft tyres putting pressure on that Renault for P5.
Yeah, Storm just managed to get himself up into 12th ahead of Atlas there on the main straight, and Florian now within that 1 second window of Lakela, so it is game on for Florian.
Gonna have to dispatch that car first, but you'd imagine there's gonna be no real problem to do that. 2.9 the gap out front. Should be the easy one in the end. You kind of, well, you can understand why he'd fight it, because this is legit, but there's no real fighting this, is there? There's nothing you can really do. His best hope now is to hope he can stick within DRS, because that's all he needs to do at this stage. Just keep that 3-second window in 4 laps. You can see the hards now, how they struggle hitting the apex compared to those softs, but just needs to stick within DRS. And that 3-second range, Neymar then...
He tried it. He was looking for that late lunge, but thinks better of it. Does lock up, so avoids catastrophe there. But both of these guys are spent on the ERS now. Neymar, he's got absolutely hardly anything left, and Yam now not looking too much better on ERS.
Keeping that position for the moment is Zam. McMaverick not really closing up on this group either. 2.4 behind. It's been consistent that for a few laps now. And Faxland has the gap he needs. 3.5 seconds. His penalty situation, as you can see, is still 3 seconds for him. Zam has got a 3-second gap as well in terms of penalties on Neymar. So even if he did get by, it wouldn't be too costly for him.
Florian's got a 2-second gap already to the Kayla.
Last 3 laps of this race. Faxland has his gap. Florian working on his. And Neymar trying to work on getting by that Renault. It's just nothing doing. He just can't get close enough by the end. It's a long straight. Again, thinks, well, just leaves his car down there, but nothing, no real opportunity manifesting.
You think he's just trying to scare the Renault, make him think...
Possibly, yeah, very much so. I think that's part of it. I think Fernando Alonso used to do this quite a bit as well. I think Schumacher did too. Just you have to think, because as long as that car is there, you're always going to be wary that the car is on that, because you know when that car moves to the right hand side, and you will be wary of it, and you might be tempted to leave a space when you don't really need to. As Magnus gets by Seigate for P9. Magnus on those mediums. It's a wild race for Magnus, hasn't it? He had the damage at the start. He pit onto hards. He's had the drive-through penalty. You really do wonder where he could have been. I think he would have been in a very easy third had he not run into the problems that he did. But maybe another time for Magnus. Just wasn't his day today.
Yeah, similar story for Storm as well in that respect as well. He got damage early on, dropping through the field, and had to make a very early pit stop as well for a set of mediums.
The race got away quite quickly for Conti as well. He was running higher up in the top 7, top 8. In 11th at the moment. He's going to get past Seigate here in a second, but hasn't unfolded. And as you say, 3.3 seconds for Florian. Outside here for Conti, trying to salvage some points from this race. He's got a lot of penalties in hand. So does Seigate, to be fair. And DRS enabled. So we are beginning the last lap of the race now. Faxland comfortable now out front, can now coast, doesn't need to risk any more liberties at the track. As he approaches his title, but have one more lap to complete. And meanwhile, Neymar's still trying to find a way past Zam, but it's been fairly consistent at this rate of him not getting through the yellow flag. With Maverick is round, and I did see him get a little twitchy with the back end. That's disappointing for him, but he should have, well, what's his gap to Magnus? Should be able to limp home this last lap even with a damaged wing. But one last time, looking towards Neymar and Zam. Neymar pushing that car basically. Was this his best chance to get this move done? He's going to have a go, surely. I think McMaverick... Oh, the other racing point is round, but Zam goes defensive. Oh, Neymar's trying to maintain control of that back end, just about does it. Here we go then, last corner. You always want to send it in an emphatic way, and with a race win, Faxland wins the Division 4 title for TTML. Congratulations to him. Traxi pushed him all the way though. Second place ultimately for Traxi. A good race between those two though, you have to say. Strategy up in the air with those ones, but they made it work. Florian then will cross the line in third place, and he should keep it, but a great drive from Nikala to make those hard compound tyres work. Zam then is going to just about squeeze ahead of Neymar for a well-earned P5. And Neymar then, let's see, we'll see some more change now. McMaverick somehow is going to finish 7th here. His teammates spun on the last lap here. Well, McMaverick, I think he's going to have enough penalties to well, he lets him through, to be fair, but no need, because penalties certainly would have put Brewich up to 7th, and Magnus jumping McMaverick then into 8th, Conti jumping then McMaverick as well, and even Storm creeping up into the top 10 on penalties then. So 9th place, some solid salvage drives there between Magnus, Conti and Storm to get into the top 10, but that will do it.
Yep, and Nikita gets the in-game driver of the day, but does he get our driver of the day?
Well, we'll see. I need to have a look at where people started and where they finished, because a lot of chop and change. Not as much as I was expecting at the end with penalties, but certainly
kind of spread out a bit.
They did. They did spread out anyhow. I'll skip the rest of that podium celebration. But Faxland then taking the victory on the day from 2nd on the grid. Traxi, no penalties for him, but sadly just 9/10 off of glory in the end. But you felt like Faxland had that well covered in the end. Florian then from 4th, good drive from him to finish 3rd. I do think a very, very worthy driver of the day nomination for Likala in 4th, then from 11th on the grid to make that, especially to make that hard strategy work as well with one penalty to boot. I think he's certainly worth consideration. Zam 5th, Neymar 6th, Brewich, a good drive from him. A shame he spun on the last lap there, but I don't think it would have changed anything in the end for him, but he still finishes 7th. Solid recovery drive from Magnus to finish 8th. Conti, we disappointed with himself, I think. A lot of penalties and dropping from 6th on the grid. Storm then finishing where he started in 10th, but that doesn't really cover his race. Atlas Scopo 5th place, he drops down to 11th. McMaverick again 12th place, rather underselling his race then. McMaverick 12th, Saigate 13th, and then Broken Line I believe was our last finisher, I believe in 14th there. Well, would you shift from the game's point of view? Likala for driver of the day? Would you give it to any of the top two? What do you reckon? Which way would you go?
It's close between Likala and it's actually close between Faxland as well. For that to be able to come back through and not only get close back up to overtake for the lead, but then to pull that gap in the fashion that he did at the end. Like that was impressive and definitely a champion's drive if you ask me. But Likala, that strategy, it was good from Likala. I'm going to agree with the game. I'm going to give it to Likala.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout as well. But certainly Faxland, it would have been a good one too. But I agree. I think Likala thoroughly earned that. Shame for him he couldn't quite get the podium. But nevertheless, a strong drive from 11th. Nevertheless, but Faxland is your Division 4 champion, so congratulations to him. He's been very consistent all season long. The only thing that's really stopped him has been himself, you'd have to say, probably. Getting into a few incidents here and there, but on merit, he has been the quickest driver of the division, you'd have to say. So, well-earned title for him, so congratulations to him. Any closing thoughts as we round out round number 10?
It was a pleasure to join you today, and hopefully next week's, I believe the constructors is still up for grabs. I believe Haas may have taken the constructors lead. I'm not entirely sure on that, because of where Florian finished on the podium. I can't remember where the other two Spectre drivers, so Haas and Mercedes, finish off the top of my mind. I have a memory like a goldfish. But yeah, I believe the Constructors battle is the next big topic for next week, so it'll be interesting to see who wins that. But yeah, good race from everyone in D4, and it was great to join you.
And a pleasure to have you with me. I appreciate it. I almost forgot that it's been such a long time. I almost forgot that TTML does use a different point system. But even with that point system, it's still I think Vaxland certainly still is your champion. Comfortable 60 plus with 2 rounds to go, and that does bring us to our next event, which is the Brazilian Grand Prix, taking place. No, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong. I did what you did. I'm looking at the wrong calendar. I'm looking at season 3. I'll just mosey on
there's
back
one
to.
round left then.
Well, yeah, one left, one left, one went right. Wow, I really botched that because the next round is the last round. Never mind all that. Next round is the last round. Is Abu Dhabi, which takes place next week. So that is the last round. I have been reading the wrong calendar all this time, but that's great. But Faxan is definitely still your champion. Happens to the best of us. So Abu Dhabi is next weekend. My thanks to Mike for joining me tonight, and until next time.
Right.